Breaking news right now here on Spectrum News 1. Joe Biden is the projected winner to be the next president of the United States. Pennsylvania was just called, which put him over the magic number of 270 electoral college votes, meaning he has won his first term in the White House. Coverage. Do we have Tim yet? Hey, Tim, it's Jonathan. I know you're at home just getting this news, but what can you tell us so far?
Yeah, so what we've been waiting for is one of these states to get over the mathematical statistical threshold for them to call this race. And it was either going to be Nevada, it was going to be Georgia, it was going to be Pennsylvania. And Georgia just ended up being too close, where we now know there'll be a recount. Nevada was not releasing these numbers fast enough. So what's been happening in Pennsylvania today is they've been checking over these mail-in ballots that have come in, a large chunk of them in Allegheny County over by Pittsburgh, and a huge chunk of them over in Philadelphia area, which were all leaning towards Joe Biden. And what they're doing is these mail-in ballots that came in, and a lot of them needed sort of a double check, so to speak, to make sure that they were legitimate, that they were done properly, and that they should be counted.
Of the provisional ballots, the military ballots that are left to come in. And most of the counting that still does need to be done is still concentrated on those major cities, which have been leaning very hard for Joe Biden. It started to become clear that Pennsylvania was going to be Joe Biden's, hence why he got the projection that he is going to take that state, and now he is the presumptive nominee for president. That doesn't mean that we're not paying attention to these other states, because these other states still remain very important to this entire equation, because we know that there's going to be lawsuits for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has the most lawsuits filed in it of any of the states that President Donald Trump is challenging how the votes have been counted, which votes are being counted. So we're still paying a lot of attention to states like Nevada, because this
Biden, we expect to hear from him any moment now, but we want to go to our Taylor Popolars, who is in Delaware, right outside of the projected winners campaign headquarters. Taylor?
Hello from Wilmington, Delaware, the Joe Biden campaign headquarters, where supporters are gathering after the Associated Press projected that Joseph Biden will be the 46th president of the United States, and Senator Kamala Harris from California will be the vice president-elect of the United States, the first woman vice presidential candidate to be elected, and the first woman person of color to be vice president. Biden campaign headquarters has been pretty quiet here the last few days, but at least several dozen supporters have gathered outside the perimeter here. Balloons are already hanging, they are cheering, drivers passing by are blowing their horns, and we expect to hear from the former vice president sometime later today behind this stage here set beside me. Joe Biden served as senator from Delaware for nearly 4 decades before being Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. He also ran for president twice before this, back in 19...
Yeah, and one thing I want to point out, too, where he's talking about these races aren't certified and these states haven't certified Joe Biden as the winner. Donald Trump was declared the winner before he was certified the winner in 2016, too. So there's nothing out of the ordinary with what we're seeing about this race being declared by the Associated Press, by CNN, and, by the way, by Fox News now, too. So there is nothing out of the ordinary at this. And the reason I make that point is I've already gotten some feedback on Twitter from folks saying, how do you know there's not fraud? We need to make sure there's not fraud. Well, because we don't have evidence of fraud. Of course, if there are allegations, that will all be investigated and taken care of, just like it's been done in elections in 2006, 2012, 2008, 1976, so forth and so forth.
Second, we want to bring in now Wayne Goodwin, who is chairman of the North Carolina Democratic Party. Good to see you, Wayne. How are you feeling today?
Well, feeling much relieved. I mean, obviously, votes are still being counted in various states, but this is clearly a sign that voters across America are ready to start a new chapter. They're ready to have a president and a vice president that will unite our people, not divide our people. Someone who's going to tackle the coronavirus head on and not give up. And most of all, I think just ready to build back better. We've got a lot of ground to make up across the country, and very pleased that we now have a president and a vice president who's going to help unite our nation once again.
I was going to ask you that because here in North Carolina, while the projected winner Joe Biden did really well in other states. He didn't do well here in North Carolina. What do you think Democrats need to do to win over those who did not vote for Joe Biden?
Well, the Biden-Harris ticket.
So listen, Nevada was just called for Joe Biden. This gives him now even a bigger projected lead. That's 290 electoral votes. He needs 270. Joe Biden is taking these projections. His campaign has just announced that he's going to be addressing the nation around 8 o'clock this evening. So we are anticipating that we will see him accepting this nomination, even if we're not hearing the concession speech. As soon as Pennsylvania came in, that was the magic number that Joe Biden needed in order to get across that 270 number.
Governor McCrory, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, let me first thank you all for your patience. Sorry we couldn't get on Zoom, but I've been told I have a face for radio anyway, so it's proper that I do it by phone. What's going through my mind, it's bringing back bad memories for me from 4 years ago, which had a very similar dynamic. I think our race 4 years ago was 0.001% difference coming in, at 10:45 at night or 11:45 at night. So, but one lesson learned from that is the votes that come in late typically are Democratic votes.
Well, this hour we've got team coverage from all across the state. The first half we're bringing in Alexis Bell, Anton Day, Reuben Jones, and Garrett Bergquist.
And from around the nation, we're going to start with Spectrum News 1. Taylor Papalarz, who is in Wilmington, Delaware. Taylor, we expect Joe Biden to give a victory speech tonight.
That we do. The campaign tells us it will start at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and you could see behind me there is a stage set up. It's actually been that way since Monday, and outside the security perimeter that we are currently in, we can't show you them because there's a bunch of other media in the way, but there are a couple hundred supporters here who, once the Associated Press and other news organizations made the projection that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were the winners of this race, they started to gather. And throughout the afternoon, as the sun has been setting here in Wilmington, there's been a lot of high energy. A lot of cars driving by and honking their horns. And current President Donald Trump.
All right, Taylor, thank you very much. Boy, it's amazing to see the difference in the activity, and you can just see and feel a difference from what we saw there last night. Now we want to get reaction here in North Carolina to Joe Biden's projected presidential win. Let's head out to Durham, where Spectrum News 1 reporter Alexis Bell is. And Alexis, a lot of energy we've seen there throughout the afternoon.
Absolutely, a lot of energy, a lot of loud noises. I mean, people have been out here celebrating and partying for hours. Since the news broke around noon, I'm in the Durham City Plaza, but it all started earlier on Main Street. I want to show you what it looked like where the crowds were thick, similar to what we just heard. People were in the streets, hundreds of people in their cars, honking, people dancing, people chanting. There were some people that were holding signs saying Black Lives Matter, Love Wins, and immigration reform. And of course, there were also some Biden and Harris campaign signs. People we talked to say they came out here and wanted to witness what it looks like when democracy works. Parents who brought their kids out told me that it was important for them to come and witness this moment. They wanted their kids to be a part of it. And I talked to one Durham native who we're about to hear from who says the transition may not be happening peacefully, but he says that the battle has already been won.
Today it was important because this is a remarkable step in history. We struggled, people were sacrificed for us to turn this nation around. And I've never seen Durham so lit up and celebrated. It was important for me to be out here. This is my hometown.
And while people have been celebrating, like we said, of course, people have also been saying there's still a lot to be done, still a long way to go, so they'll be looking forward to that. You may be wondering if we've seen any Trump supporters out here, and as far as we know, I have not seen any, but of course, it's a different story for my colleague Anton Day in Raleigh, whose scene is a little bit different. Anton, what are you saying?
Alexis, you're right. It's been different here in Raleigh, but it's been a lot of energy here because earlier today, like you said, around noon, President Trump supporters came to Raleigh, and they originally went to the legislative building, and from there they marched to the governor's home, and they chanted, and they want the president to know that they're still supporting him. Many of them believe that he should still be the president come the next 4 years. We have an interview here with Chris Lee. He is a supporter of the president.
Absolutely.
What makes you support the president?
I mean, his record speaks for itself. I think he's done more for minorities than any president in my lifetime. His economic record is pretty much bulletproof. He also I think he did the biggest private-public venture fighting the virus than we've seen since World War II between public and private. I think that's amazing.
Well, Chris, now that it appears that he will not be the president come the next 4 years, do you have issues with the process?
Well, I don't. It is yet to be determined whether or not he's going to be the president. The election has not been decided. And there is a lot of evidence to prove that there is a lot of fraud. There's a lot of ballots that are being counted after election night. I think that these are all issues that have to be resolved. And I think if you believe in democracy and if you believe in the process, then we should all believe in the transparency and the open door process and everybody should get to see, both campaigns should get to see the process and an audit of these battleground states. I think all of the battleground state votes should be overlooked. Anything that's not legitimate, thrown out. Anything that's legitimate, counted. I think that's the way democracy is supposed to work. We can't have an illegitimate election hanging over our country's head.
Are you willing to accept the presidency of Biden if it is proven to be a legitimate vote?
If the process goes through and it's completely legitimate and transparent, I have no problem with. I want the right person to be the president. I don't want an illegitimate process to select who the president is. I want it to be the person that actually won. And when we went to bed on Tuesday night, President Trump was leading in all of the Rust Belt battleground states. All of the antics seem to have happened after that. And I'm sorry, 600,000 votes ahead in Pennsylvania when we went to bed on Tuesday night, and all of a sudden 3 or 4 days later, Joe Biden's in the lead. That, like, statistically, what are the chances of somebody being down 600,000 votes and winning? To me, it screams fraud. I think we need to look into it.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we are here, and that's the sentiment of a whole lot of people who support President Trump. But as we know, that there were ballots that came in, and due to the state's laws, they were able to do so. So the thought process of it not being a legitimate count is not and has not been proven, if it ever will be. We're live in Raleigh. Anton Day, Spectrum News 1.
And we should say that absentee mail-in ballots are legal. We've been doing it in North Carolina since the 90s. So that voting and that style of voting has been happening. And the Trump campaign and others did not call for the same sort of process in 2016 when he won. So just want to put that out there.
And we should also make note that absentee ballots do take much longer to vote. We had over 4 million, approximately 4 million absentee ballots here in North Carolina. It takes time to go through them. The difference here in North Carolina is they could start tallying them up before Election Day. Pennsylvania could not do that. They could not even touch them, so they couldn't even flatten them out before Election Day came.
Yeah, and millions of those in Philadelphia, which we saw come out today, in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh. So we just want to point that out. I understand people feel the way that gentleman did, but we need to point that out for the general public out there. So a lot going on across the country right now, right, Loretta? Well,
that's right. These demonstrations and celebrations that we're seeing locally, we're also seeing them across the country. I believe that this is in Denver. Is this correct? This is in Washington, D.C. at the Black Lives Matter Square. This is, this was a symbol during the social justice rallies that we were seeing around the country this summer. When they painted Black Lives Matter onto this square, this became a rallying cry for folks who are hoping to see some sort of change in our country. They wanted to see some more racial equality. They wanted to see social equality in our country. And part of that for many of these people was that they wanted to see some sort of leadership change in the country. So this is very symbolic that we see this celebration going on right now at the Black Lives Matter Square in Washington, D.C. Then if we head out to Arizona, listen, Arizona is still counting its ballots. Arizona has been projected as a win for Joe Biden. However, as these ballots have been being counted in Arizona, President Trump has been getting closer and closer to Joe Biden. through the entire counting process. That counting process continues to go on. You can see in Arizona that many Trump supporters have come out to show their support for President Trump. They are hoping that this ballot count continues and that the trend continues in Arizona here. That would, they're hoping that this could change the projection for Arizona, but at the moment it still is around 20,000 separating the two candidates.
Yeah, in a lot of ways at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because of what happened in Pennsylvania and potentially in Georgia and beyond. All right, we're going to head to the Weather Center now for a quick check of your
asked him about what he wanted the cabinet to look like. I also spoke with Congresswoman Alma Adams, who is very closely involved with HBCUs. She's, of course, represents a large chunk of Charlotte. And I asked her about the impact Kamala Harris might have on young people.
The fact that we have Kamala Harris, these young girls and boys are able to see themselves in her and see what they can do and what they can be. And so it makes us as parents and grandparents super proud.
A lot of super proud parents and grandparents out there. I also asked Alma Adams about what a potential when Biden gets inauguration, excuse me, I couldn't think of the word there, what the inauguration may look like come January. She said hard to really know at this point because of COVID-19. Could it be all virtual? Could there be some people in attendance? My guess is a number of people are going to want to show up and see it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in D.C. But for now, Tim and Loretta, a lot of people are excited to see the first woman and the first woman of color vice president.
Welcome back. Time now for some reaction to the news, some social media. Sometimes a dangerous place, sometimes interesting, sometimes just entertaining. Our Spectrum News 1 anchor, Rob, who joins us with everything and all that in between. Right, Rob?
Tim, this is what a cyber stalker must feel like. I feel like I'm just trying to find every little picture or video of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Mr. Trump. So here's what I have for you right now. There's been two photos I've been able to find since the projections were made. The first one posted by Dr. Jill Biden this afternoon. She tweets, "He will be a president for all of our families." I assume this taken soon after the projection.
Thanks for staying with us. The victory of the Democratic ticket in the hard-fought presidential race sets the stage for history-making achievements for projected Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Spectrum News 1 reporter Sandra Weathers explains.
Kamala Harris became a district attorney in California in 2003, a United States Senator in 2017, the first woman of color VP pick in 2020. She's the daughter of an Indian American immigrant activist and breast cancer researcher. She's a sister and a friend who's often referred to as Mamala. She's a Howard University graduate, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the second most powerful person in America following one of the nation's most historic elections. And now she has her newest title as the projected next vice president of the United States.
Kamala Harris for the people.
It's a history-making moment that political science professor Dr. Anthony Brunello says can't be ignored.
She heralds that demographic change. She is a picture of it. She's not just an African American, she's of Indian descent and a woman of that generation. She reflects the coming demographic change.
Just Google vice presidents of the United States, and this is what you'll get. All male, all white VPs listed all the way back to the very first John Adams. But now there's a new first, a woman, an African American and South Asian American woman vice president-elect of the United States of America. Dr. Brunello says Harris brings more than just diversity to the table. He says her pick as VP hit all the marks.
But he picked the one candidate, I think, who checked off so many boxes, including being politically brilliant. This is someone who has been a winner and a campaigner ever since she started in California. And this is she's a singular political animal, Kamala Harris is.
Harris also has a lengthy resume. She can tell you better than anyone else.
I have fought for children and survivors of sexual assault. I fought against transnational criminal organizations.
And now she can add Vice President of the United States of America to that list, along with history maker. Sandra Weathers, Spectrum News.
So that's a live look at the White House right there. We have not heard from President Trump speaking out today, but we are just about 1 hour away from Joe Biden speaking to the nation. And We are just a few moments away from a special edition of Capitol Tonight, right after this break.